Hey, guys, Alcides Pelzer here, your voice manager. I unmute the voice of women who are ready to speak up about what has kept her silent for way too long. And this is another episode of the Speak Easy podcast, where we go behind the scenes and talking about what it means to be the successfully paid speaker and author. Guys, oh my goodness. I know. When we think about a pack, we think about a pack of lions, we think about wolves, and we're like, oh my goodness, everybody talks about being at the front of the pack or being at the back and what that can truly mean. But I think this particular episode is really going to resonate with a lot of you because some of you, many of you, don't feel like you're at the front or the back. Many of you at your jobs, in your business, in the speaking industry, as an author, you feel like you're in the middle of the pack and you're trying to find that leadership, that way to leadership, that way to success from the middle of the pack. So that's why I'm excited about my guest, Dr. Karen. Hello, Dr. Karen.
Hi, I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here because I know when it comes to leadership, Dr. Karen is going to lay it all out. I know one of the things that, I've been telling my clients is right now, we've all been given a level playing field. It's just a matter, are you taking the blue pill or the red pill? But we'll go into that a little deeper as we go throughout this particular episode. Dr. Karen, let them know a little bit about yourself and then we'll dive into today's topic.
Yes, my name is Dr. Karen Hills-Pruden. I'm actually a dualpreneur professional. I am a Chief Human Resource Officer for Historically Black College and University. I'm also a CEO of my own company, Pruden Global Business Solution Consulting. My company specifically works with female middle managers seeking senior leadership positions. I'm in the C-suite, and I basically work with individuals who aspire to be in the C-suite. I am also a certified diversity executive. I'm a 7-time author. I have 2 recent publications that are out. My most recent is Prudent Principles, 10 Strategies to Propel Women to the C-Suite. And then I also have Courageous Enough to Launch, which is part of an anthology with Cheryl Wood about women who push through obstacles to own their own business. And so I have about 20 to 30 years worth of experience between business and human resources, and I'm excited to be here.
Oh, it's about to go down. So let's leave off all, no doubt in anybody's mind when it comes to being in the middle of the pack. What would you tell them is the first thing they need to do in order for them to even attempt to be able to go to another level in leadership?
I would say the first thing they need to do is keep looking forward and don't look back. You've already overcome whatever challenges you've had, whatever struggles you have. Keep your eyes focused on your goals. Find out what it is that you need to get, to obtain, to reach your goals, maybe even quicker. Find someone who's in your goal position that you are looking for to be a mentor or a coach. But I would say keep looking forward. And even when you trip up, get back up and keep your goal in mind, because as long as you're in motion, you're moving forward. Just do not look back.
Oh my goodness, that makes me think of the quote, if you can look up, then you can get up. Listen.
Amen.
You got to have that understanding.
Yes.
And I know a lot of people that are listening, Speak Easy podcast listeners, you guys have been like, I know you say that, it's a level playing field. Well, listen, just because it's a level playing field does not mean that you can be average in your approach to trying to get into leadership, or average in your approach to try to, not even get ahead of the pack, but just try to differentiate yourself in the midst of everyone else. So I love that, that idea of you got to stay focused. There's so many people right now that are all over the place that completely, they're like, ooh, squirrel. Listeners, how many of you have had some squirrel moments during this year? 2020, I think, has been a large squirrel moment for many. But even for those who are coming into the corporate world, they're like, okay, it doesn't look the same. And for many of us, as you know, we're adjusting to this new normal, it's not going to look the same. But being able to be flexible is very important. So when it comes to being in leadership, we know that there's kind of some levels. There's a level of flexibility that we need to have, but there's also a level of boundaries. Can you talk about that a little bit, Dr. Karen?
Absolutely. In terms of the level of flexibility, I like to use the word, which I know probably everyone has heard, is the word of pivot. You have to have the ability to pivot. And what do I mean by that? It really doesn't matter what your business is. For instance, during this pandemic, a lot of leaders had to figure out how to continue to conduct business differently. And so you need to think outside of the box. You need to not be afraid to be the first. I used to work under someone who used to say, don't be afraid to fail fast, but attempt it, and so part of most of the innovators and the forerunners in all industries are the people who are willing to try something and fail at it. And so part of the flexibility is being able to reimagine and revision your business based on whatever the external situation is that you're dealing with. For most of us, it's the pandemic now. It's the ability not to meet face to face, depending on what your industry is. It's having employees that are all over different places because they're working from home and they're teleworking. And how do you communicate with those individuals? How do you keep them productive? Have the same goals as they would if they were coming into the office. And so in terms of flexibility, you have to have the ability to keep the same goals, but pivot how you do it. And so you have to open your mindset to doing things differently. What was the second part of your question?
The second part was the boundaries.
Well, it depends on who's putting the boundaries. Are you putting the boundaries on yourself because you're not flexible? Or are there external factories that are putting the boundaries on you? And if the external factories are putting the boundaries on you, and then it goes back to what I said for number one, then you have to reimagine how to work around those boundaries. For instance, like a lot of individuals had struggled with leading individuals in the office, and now they have individuals who are working from home. And so that means that you have to pay attention to your employees more. You have to stay in contact with them more. Just because they're home does not necessarily mean that you don't have virtual meetings with them. You don't have expectations. You don't require checkpoints. You do temperature checks along the way for various projects so that you won't find that you're at the end of a project and people haven't done what they're supposed to be doing. So you do incremental temperature checks. And so boundaries, how you address boundaries is whether or not they are self-imposed because you aren't flexible in your way of thinking, or if they are imposed on you. If they're imposed on you, then you look at alternative ways to do it, or maybe decide maybe it's not worth doing at all at this particular time, because you also need to know as a leader when to table something. And when you table it, you're not tabling it forever, but you're tabling it for now, because it's not worth, you don't get the return on your investment for trying to pursue it now, because there's so many external boundaries that you cannot control, that are beyond your control. And so that's how I would look at barriers, just those two types. The best type is the type that you self-impose, because all you have to do is change how you feel and how you think about something. The external barriers are a lot difficult, but as a leader, you still have to work through them, because the expectation from your employer, or even if you're in business for yourself, is that in order to continue to thrive, you have to figure out a way to plow through whatever those barriers are.
That is so important. I absolutely love you being able to say that. And one of the things that came up while you were answering that was communication. We know that communication is a big, big piece of you being in leadership, you being able to get to the head of the pack, you being able to level up when it comes to whatever you're doing. And this is for entrepreneurship, this is for corporate, this is for any number of things. But there are still so many that fear communication. They're fearful of how somebody may react, or how they may come off. What is a great way for them to kind of get a little more confidence when it comes to communicating with those that are above them, as well as those that they're leading?
Well, I am a data person, And so if they are in business, most businesses are in business to make money, save money, or achieve organizational goals. A lot of nonprofits are trying to achieve organizational goals. They're not really focused on making money, even though making money is a requirement for them to do the service that they provide. So in order to talk to leaders, I talk in form of data. I talk on the return on their investment, whether that return is going to be today, next month, or 5 years from now. I actually quantify it down to numbers. I do a lot of reports. I pull applicable reports. I speak the language that they speak. If you want to get the attention of leaders, if you want leaders to invest in your organization with budget dollars, because we're all competing for the same budget dollars, then you need to show your value. And the only way that you can show your value is through numbers, whether it's an increase in customers, increase in sales, and whether that increase in sales is the near future or the future that's further along, but you have to be able to communicate in numbers. And so one of the things when I work with my clients is, my motto is data is more than a spreadsheet. You need to know how to tell the story with data. And so I teach a class on how do you tell the story? How do you ask for money from your organization when they say there is no money, through the use of data? And the only way you can do that is through the use of numbers.
That part, I think people they're like, wait, for real? Okay, so I really need to know what I'm doing. And it goes back to, are you the expert at what it is that you say you're doing? Are you the expert in your industry? And so as we get to that next level of expertise, I know that I'm a strong believer of always going back and making sure that I'm always educating myself. Listen, always learning, always, finding a way to be able to move my needle forward, but take my business knowledge to another level. And so when it comes to being ready for them to go to that next level, what are some ways that they can educate themselves to, finding out things about the data, or finding out, better communication skills and ways that they can go ahead and kind of move not just themselves, but those around them forward?
Well, the first two questions that I ask individuals who come to me who are entrepreneurs that kind of throw them off is, who are your competition? You need to be aware of your competition and what your competition is doing. You need to be on the mailing list of your competition, maybe even take a class from your competition if they're into consulting or buy their product or buy their services. How are you going to know who you are competing with in this economic space if you don't partake in their product, if you don't partake in their services, to know what level that they're? So educate yourself on what others in your industry are doing. And then maybe partner with your brother or sister industry who has a compatible product or services. I strongly believe in partnerships. Partnerships with we have the same client, meaning that our client is the same, but our services are different. And so that'll help you expand the services of your organization, or even of your skill set. In corporate America, when I work, I'm the why person. So I'm asking questions that are out of my area expertise. And sometimes a lot of people, they don't like for you to do that in a meeting because it takes up time. But I'm the person that goes to someone and say, hey, let's go to lunch. And at lunch, I'm asking them all the backdoor questions that I couldn't ask in the meeting, because I want to understand how their business and their role in business and how my role in the business work together. And so I tell people that if you want to have partnerships, that'll keep you more innovative and competitive. And then you want to educate yourself on what your competitors are doing. And then you want to be authentic to yourself. Just because you look different, speak different, think different than other people in your space, that may be your ticket to being number one in the industry. So don't forget to continue to be authentic as you're paying attention to others in your space. No one likes a copycat. After a while, everyone begins to look the same. If you stay authentic, then yourself, you stand out as to who you are and the uniqueness that you bring to the position or to your business. And that may be the calling card that make you be the front runner in your industry.
I love it. I love it. So I always ask everyone that comes onto the podcast this question, and it's, in this journey, has there been any blunders, any moments that you can look back and say, okay, that wasn't the best option or choice at that moment? I may have learned from it, but man, oh man, if I could go back.
For me, I think in my corporate career, I stayed in one position too long. I was comfortable. The money was good. I was able to pay my bills and have a little fun on the side. So the money was good. I enjoyed the people that I worked with, but for a span of years, and I stayed with that organization for over a decade, for a span of years, I forgot that I really wanted to see how far I can go in corporate America. So I did move up within that organization, but at a certain point, I hit a roadblock because the person I was picked to succeed, my boss, I needed that person to retire in order for me to ascend. And this person wasn't ready to retire. And so that's when I realized that maybe I had stayed too long in that position. And so I got too comfortable. So sometimes when you're pursuing your goals, particularly in corporate America, and if you are blessed to where you have a job you enjoy the salary, you enjoy the people you work with, sometimes you have to move yourself beyond that comfort to keep moving up. And I stayed too long in that one position. Now, hindsight, now I view it as a blessing because now I am at a top position with an organization. And as a result of me moving within the company, even though I was with the one employer, I kept moving up, and that helped me in terms of my resume. But I think I stayed at that organization a little too long. So if your goal is to see how far you can go in your career, I would say no matter how happy you are, no matter, don't get complacent. Don't stay there. Keep your goal in mind, because I wasn't unhappy. And as a result, I stopped thinking about my professional goals.
And that's something that Speakeasy listeners, you guys, you always got to keep your goals ahead of you.
Mm-hmm.
That means if you've reached a goal, then there should be some adjustment that's coming. And I should be looking at the next goal or a goal that's further down the line, because we never, don't settle. I think that's what it is. Yeah, don't settle.
Or get comfortable. And sometimes it's just where I got comfortable. I didn't settle because I was still moving up, but I had hit the ceiling where I was because my boss needed to retire and she wasn't ready. And I stayed in that place for a number of years, realizing that she wasn't ready to retire. So at the point that that I saw that she wasn't ready to retire, I should have been looking at that point, but instead I still lingered around for about 4 years.
Whew. I know, and I know personally of many people who, even as entrepreneurs, have done some of the similar things, and you see that there's no progress being made, like when it comes to you advancing forward.
Mm-hmm.
But man, that security blanket, that comfort, sometimes it's the paycheck that's coming in. Sometimes it's the community or the support, the people that you're around. You don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And whew, man.
Yep. You got to keep your goals in mind. You got to keep your goals in front of you. And again, when you enjoy your job, it's more difficult. If you didn't enjoy the job, it's easier to leave. But I really and truly enjoy the position and the people and what the company stood for. But it was, if I was to reflect back on it, I stayed too long. I stayed too long.
There. Hoo-wee. Speakeasy listeners, I know you guys are like, yeah, this was something I'm going to have to listen to a couple of times. We understand. You can come back. The episode is not going anywhere. Definitely make sure that you share it out. We want to know how this resonated with you. We want to see and hear from you. So don't forget to join the conversation, bit.ly/World Voice Community, so we can hear the feedback that you have for this episode. But also, man, if you are at a point where you're like, I know I need to move forward, but I'm stuck, I don't know which way to go, definitely reach out to Dr. Karen. Dr. Karen, let them know where they can find you at online and how they can reach out for more information.
Sure. You can find me on social media under Dr. Karen Hills-Pruden. You can also, I have a Facebook group called C-Suite Career Elevation. I also have a business page on Facebook, Pruden Global Business Solutions. And of course, I have my own website as well. I'm on Instagram, Twitter. I'm on all social media. If you Google me, you'll find me. So even if you Google Dr. Karen Hills-Pruden, I've been around for again almost 30 years. So you can find me if you can Google my name.
And that's relevant too, guys, because you want to make sure that you're talking to someone who has been in the game, who has, so much knowledge and wisdom. That's why we bring the guests that we have to the platform, so that way you guys are getting it straight. No chaser. You're getting everything that you need in order for you to be successful. You know why? Because without the Speak Easy podcast listeners, there is no Speak Easy podcast. And with that being said, we appreciate you guys. This has been another episode of the Speak Easy podcast. Guys, man, it only gets better from here, but it's a decision that you have to make. With that being said, until next time, guys, don't forget to press it out. See ya.